Hello, everyone. I'm Adrienne Bryant Godwin. I'm the Director of Programming at the Center for the Arts at George Mason University. I am so thrilled to welcome you here to Old Town Hall, which we thought was a fitting place to have a town hall discussion. I just want to start off by saying how grateful I am to our three speakers tonight, Mr. Bill T. Jones, Dr. Wendi-Manuel Scott, and Dr. Frank Dukes, who have joined us here tonight. I know we're all interested to hear them speak this evening, and I know they're also interested in hearing you speak, as we do want this to be a true town hall style discussion. So Dr. Scott is going to lead us in the evening. But first, I wanted to put this in a little bit of context, this event tonight, which is that the Bill T. Jones Arnie Zane Company is here at Mason this week as one of our artists in residence. And they are busy working on a new piece, What Problem, that's going to premiere on Saturday night at the Center for the Arts. So please do join us for that performance. But in addition to their work in the theater, they have also had company members here all week that have been working with various different communities on campus, but also with a group of very lucky and brave 22 individuals who have been creating material together, and that will be in the performance, actually. And several of you are here tonight, so I just wanted you to raise your hands, please, if you're one of our 22 community participants. So we started the Artists in Residence program this year. This is the inaugural year, with the goal of increasing the amount of time that artists are in our communities in order to foster opportunities to have truly meaningful exchange between artists and between community members. And I think that this town hall event is such a prime example of that exact type of activity. So I'm just so thrilled that you all showed up and are here. These types of events take a lot of work, so on the back of your program, there's many people that we want to thank, and I want to highlight a couple of those. The first is Arts Fairfax and Mason's Office of Research, Innovation, and Economic Impact. They helped to fund this residency. I also want to thank our presentation partners this evening, the City of Fairfax, Megan Du Bois, and Old Town Hall, and also a special shout out to my colleague Haley Smizer, our Programming and Engagement Coordinator, who did a fabulous job organizing this entire residency and this event. So thank you, Haley. Yes. So I am going to now pass the mic off to Dr. Wendi-Manuel Scott.
Well, before we begin and I introduce the two wonderful human beings that are sitting on either side of me, I thought that we would take a moment to pause in recognition of the communities, the lives, the individuals that existed on this land before we were here. And while we may not know the names, while we may not be able to bend our tongues, right, to say their name, let us just pause for a moment to acknowledge that they were here long before us. So in the spirit of inclusiveness and the spirit of making space for the unnamed, for the erased, and the silenced, the three of us have gathered here this evening with all of you. I must say, we have been upstairs for the last 30-ish minutes, having just a delightful conversation. So I feel a bit like we are old friends. Is that okay? Very good. Is that okay? So I'm going to introduce my old friends. Both of them have a distinguished bio. I'm going to abbreviate it a bit for the sake of time so that we can share a bit and then have an opportunity really to invite you to engage with us. So to my left, we have the amazing Bill T. Jones. Artistic director, co-founder, choreographer, Bill T. Jones, Arnie Zane Company, Artistic Director, New York Live Arts. The accomplishments and the titles that we could give you are long. And so it really is an honor to have you with us. He is the Associate Artist of the 2020 Holland Festival and recipient of the 2014 Doris Duke Performing Artist Award, the 2013 National Medal of Arts, the 2010 Kennedy Center of Honors, the 2010 Tony Award for the Best Choreography of the critically acclaimed Fela, and the list goes on and on and on. But most importantly, right, Mr. Jones choreographed and performed, or has choreographed and performed worldwide with his late partner, Arnie Zane, before forming the Bill T. Jones Arnie Zane Dance Company in 1982. He has created more than 140 works for his company. Mr. Jones is the artistic director of New York Live Arts, an organization that strives to create a robust framework in support of the nation's dance and movement-based artists through new approaches to producing, presenting, and educating. And so again, we are just thrilled to have you with us. And
I wish
to
you'd
my
introduce me
right-
first.
You are also incredible. So we have to my right, Dr. E. Franklin Dukes. He earned his MS and PhD from Mason School of Conflict Analysis and Resolution. Yes, the faculty and its students are doing just amazing work all over the world, right? And locally. Dr. Dukes is a mediator and facilitator with the Institute of Engagement and Negotiation at UVA. And he directed the Institute from 2000 to 2015, leaving an amazing legacy before stepping down to really focus his work on his passions. And so he went on to found University and Community Action for Racial Equity, UCARE, which has worked since 2007 to address UVA's legacy of slavery and white supremacy, both within UVA and in the community at large. He leads amazing transformative opportunities in community spaces to help the communities that he works with to think about the space through equitable collaboration and to use a trauma-informed and inclusive, responsive, truth-seeking, deliberative, and adaptive methodology. So again, we are really excited to have you join us, and I love that it's UVA and Mason working together in this space. And I'm gonna keep mine really short. So I've been a faculty member at Mason for more than 15 years. And I am a faculty member in the history department and in our School of Integrative Studies, an affiliate member of our African and African American Studies program and our Women and Gender Studies program. The courses that I teach all have to do with imagining how we can create a more just and equitable world. So whether that's critical race theory, Black feminist theory, I have the opportunity to work with incredible students that really want to help make a better world. And so we do thinking together and intentional dreaming together. So with that in mind, I may, as we have a conversation, share more about some of the projects and opportunities to work with students and the larger community. But let's just dive right in. Is that okay with y'all? Okay. All right. So again, we were having this great conversation upstairs, thinking, okay, so how are we gonna start this evening off? So we've come up with an idea. So y'all gonna roll with us in this, okay? So I'm gonna throw this question out. They kind of know the question. It's in the back of their head. We're each gonna respond. We will be organic, we'll riff off each other, see where that takes us, pause when it seems logical, and then open it up to the community. Okay. So the question, tell us something about your biography that was particularly meaningful, part one, and that was shaped by a myth, a mythology, and how have you evolved from or started to disrupt that mythology in your own biography?
When my mother and father tried to stop doing field work and they tried to open a restaurant in a community that I realized now was actually quite segregated, white people would never come. But the black people could come. And my mother had said, oh, the name of it should be the Kennedy Inn, because I'm going to tell all these biggity crackers around here because they hate him. Oh, so in other words, there was this battle going on, and we were on the right side. And if you held to your beliefs, and if you got a good education, and you didn't steal, and you didn't lie, and you were a good Christian, then the future is yours. Someday you could be president, right? Now those things, and they came this close to saying you could love anybody. You know, that there was that one step further that we know was a step that was not taken. But you can love anybody. But the 60s were upon us, so we were bringing home, bringing home people who were girlfriends, boyfriends who were white, and my mother had never really been that close to white people, but she was going with it. So that was the myth of integration. I'm reluctant to call it a myth. But you're asking me what that is.
Yeah.
I was the one upstairs who said this statement of Martin Luther King. I think it's King. I think he got it from somebody else. The arc of history is long, but it bends toward justice. And I find it more and more these days, I'm saying, I don't know if I believe it. And that's a really painful thing to say, and maybe we could dig down in that tonight. Where are we all around that? This is a man who really is a doer. And you seem to have a lot of faith in change and things getting better. So that's mine. What have I been pushing again? Oh, one thing I would say, you have to realize, and I hope you'll leave room for an alienated artist. Because I feel maybe this is a myth, part of the artist description is they should be a person who is suspicious of any received wisdom. They should be a person who is willing to challenge all notions, aesthetic notions and what we should do with our body. Artists should be the ones out front making the outrageous statements that say, yes, but.
Interrogating what's normal.
Pardon?
Interrogating, questioning whatever society
Right.
says is normal.
Yes,
right?
And sometimes very uncomfortable, as you know. And so tonight, I don't know if I can be as clear as you are. I don't know, because I feel that to be an artist, you have to already be somehow a cantankerous son of a bitch. And you have to be someone that is not there to be liked always. And I don't know, my dad used to say that Christ came he didn't come here to make peace. He came to set fathers and sons against each other. He had an idea that religious truth meant that lies had to be exposed sometimes in the most brutal way. So I will stop now, except to say that I'm really pleased to be here, and I hope that we can go further with the question.
And you pose that question, do we actually believe the moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice? And I'm thinking of that as a myth. So my parents were great people. They loved me like crazy. They taught me, that no person is better than any other person, the inherent worth and dignity of everybody. And yet, that was a myth for me, the idea that the moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice. And it's been the last couple years, and being in Charlottesville and experiencing the whole summer of what people call the summer of hate, 2017, but also even before that, understanding that it's certainly not the case. And yet I lived, the first decades of my life sort of embedded in this sort of cocoon that so much was invisible, so that when I saw I went the first 4 years to a Catholic school that was all white. And it was just sort of nothing, it was invisible to me. The whiteness was invisible to me. The neighborhood we lived in was all white. That was invisible to me. As I went to the University of Virginia and graduated, and any people who've gone to the University of Virginia? The narrative there was that Jefferson, who founded the University of Virginia, did not allow slaves, and so many half-truths. Yeah, he forbade the students from bringing their quote-unquote servants there, but there were over 4,000 enslaved people that actually worked. It was a landscape of slavery, and we've only just discovering this the last couple years. I could go on and on and on about that element of that. So my answer to that question was no. I think the moral arc of the universe bends the way we make it bend, and we have to be tough to be able to do it. I won't say I'm not naturally tough. I'm more naturally a conciliator. I mean, that's kind of the reason I got into the work. And so it's been a learning process for me as I uncover that myth, because I also had this idea that truth is important, and that for us to be able to live, and for me to be able to have the children, grow up in the world I want to be, and have my now grandson, just turned 1, grow up in the world I want to be, we have to start shedding these myths, and we have to still believe, though, in the possibility of change. I think cynicism is complicity, and apathy is complicity. And so, anyway, I'll stop right there. I'd like to hear you.
Good. This is wonderful. Okay, I'm going to go back, but I'm going to try to be concise and then bring it all the way forward. Okay. So my father was born in Birmingham, Alabama in 1950. And as I was saying earlier upstairs, it says colored on his birth certificate, right? His family left Birmingham when he was an early teenager, 13, 14, somewhere in there. They moved to Chicago. He grew up in Chicago. He met my mother. They fell in love. They had me. And he did a semester of college, dropped out because they were broke. And he had one green suit. And he was a cab driver, but there was some interview at this very random company called IBM. So he went with his one green suit and he got a job. And they transferred him to Houston, Texas. So from the time I was 2 to 8, I lived in Houston, Texas. At 8, they transferred him to North Carolina. This is where the story, the bio really becomes my memory of who I am. When we moved to Raleigh, North Carolina, unbeknownst, I think, to my parents, Raleigh was in the middle of a huge busing controversy. Busing black kids to white schools and sending white kids to black schools. Well, because my dad worked for IBM, they sent us out to the burbs. That was an all-white neighborhood. And my earliest years are painful, traumatic years of not believing that I had value, that I was seen, because the names that were thrown at me, right, cut deeply. And my parents were not prepared to have dialogue about that, because from their perspective, they were from the south side of Chicago, and they had moved out and up. So whatever my tears may have been, they were silly tears, right? And so the myth, and I think the reason why I am a historian, is that I didn't think I had value. And so my work as a professor has always been and is about discovering my own value, but also helping other marginalized students understand their value, their passion, the contribution that they can make, that they have a voice that we must hear and need to hear. And so often people will say the activism or the scholarship or the artistry is personal, and it is, right? It is about how I show up to disrupt the myths that certainly shaped me, all right, as a little young Black girl growing up in Raleigh, North Carolina.
How many of us feel as though a part of our identity has to be hidden, that we have these masks or have had that, at different times? And I think we see it, we recognize that.
But you understand, the reason I didn't raise my hand is because I have the scars that show what it means to try to say, fuck you. That's what I mean. This is what artists do. No. Matter of fact, maybe I should keep more secret. My shit is out there. And it's out there for a reason. You're not going to blackmail me. And you're not going to hold any moral superiority over me. And the young, hip, and swinging who think that they're more free, I've been there. So, no, I don't feel like I'm hiding anything. Maybe the psychological things. Am I worth loving? Am I lazy? I work with a fantastic associate, Janet Wong, who is a hard worker, and she is taking care of business when I'm cooling off. As my companion is making a lovely dinner, and I need to go elsewhere, right? So there maybe are things about personality things that but I don't think. No, I don't think there's any skeletons in the closet in that regard. Am I a secret racist? Am I a misogynist? Maybe yes, I am. Yeah, I do believe those things come in with mother's milk.
Well, right. So, what are the ways that we can own our areas that need some work, need some retooling, right? But so thinking about how those mythologies inform who we are, inform the creative work that we do, the scholarly work, activist work that we do. How are those myths showing up, right? And then, are we able to be honest about how those myths are impacting, right, the work that we do? So that if there's a script in my head that's saying, you should work harder, where did I get that from? Who told me that? According to whom, right? Is that a script that has to do with my racial identity, my sexuality, my class background, right? My nationality. I mean, what is it that's making me think that if I just worked harder, right, maybe they would finally realize how dope I am?
And you said that's a myth that tells you should work harder.
Well, one might say there's certain folk who don't think they have to work harder. Right? And so why is that?
No, but I'm not talking about those folks. I think the question is very personal. What do I think?
Well, what do you think?
Yeah.
And so it's doing that excavation to figure out what are those.
Now here the conversation swings into the psychological. And I don't know if you want to get into the psychotherapeutic. No, I don't believe, as hard as I work, I don't believe that I work hard enough. I don't think that I am as single-minded about success as I should be. So, and I think those are things that between me and a therapist. But is that what you really mean in a political sense?
No, I think, and this is, again, for you to jump in here, I'm thinking about how those myths inform, again, the work that we do. So if I go back to my story, my own bio, and I think about the current project that I'm working on at George Mason, the enslaved people of George Mason. And it's the genesis has to do with student inquiry, student research. Over a very short period of time, 2 years, we've gone from imagining what it would mean to learn about the more than 100 people that George Mason owned, right, to creating a memorial on our campus to acknowledge those lives. And one of those lives that we now know about and we can say her name is Penny, who was 8 years old. Penny, who was 8 years old when she was taken from a plantation in Maryland to George Mason's Gunston Hall. Penny, 8 years old. And then I think about myself, 8-year-old Wendy, right? Not really sure who I was, feeling a sense of disconnection and not being seen. And Penny literally ripped from her family in Maryland, taken to Virginia. And so my passion.
So you feel like I think you feel like you're lacking in something.
My work, my own experience guides my passion and intensity around honoring those people who have been silenced, erased, and made to feel small.
We did say something about, how do you counter the argument of someone who says, I've got everything I need, I can live in my community, my gated house, my job, my friends, I'm happy, et cetera, and say, well, what about your children? Okay, what about your grandchildren? What about your daughter-in-law, your son-in-law? Who might they be? And I thought this before my daughter married a Moroccan man and has a child.
I think we might let them in on how your point, it's good, but what I was saying, I said to you, why should a person care to make a better world? And we kick that around. I mean, because if you think, if my pockets are well lined, I'm married to the person I want, my friends are, my kids are going to college, I have everything I need. What am I doing that you think I could benefit by doing differently? Yeah. Now, those of us who have struggled up, but we can see that. But others say, poor dear, you lost the lottery, but don't guilt me because I don't really care about you. I don't care about you. Why should I care about you? I'm still not getting the answer. Why should I care about this world? Why?
I think you just thrown the question out there.
I am serious.
Maybe we should hear from people.
Let's not be. It's supposed to be a town hall. Let's really talk about our base. I'm assuming I'm in a room full of progressives. I'm assuming. Already. Why do I assume that idea? Why do I? And but we all believe.
But all are welcome here.
All are welcome. Yeah, we tried to put a Republican on our board once. It didn't work so well. So why do we think that the world can improve? Why do you feel you are obliged to make a better world? Why?
You asked what I would die for. Why do I want to make it better? Because now I'm a grandmother.
Yes, something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. I'm a grandmother now, 18-month-old. We're close. I would die for this child. I want to know, how do I teach him the pride of blackness without the negative myth? I want him to be proud of who he is, but I don't want him to acquire that sense of lessness. And part of the problem is not just what I can teach or his parents can teach, it's what the society teaches constantly. Constantly. I don't know the answer. I don't want him to hate, but I want him to be smart. I want him to be realistic. I want to tell him the truth. And it's hard. It's going to be hard, especially in the environment of animosity and hatred and mistrust that is not just this country right now, but this world right now. So
that's why we should care about other people. That's what you're saying. Well, okay.
That's good. Ooh, y'all are just bringing it.
He's in pretty good shape with a grandmother like you.
Hello.
Hi. So my name
Does
is
your sweatshirt say Lord?
Lord, yes, Lord University, Audrey Lord the God.
Yes, exactly. The Lord.
The Lord. So I think I think I disagree with the premise of the question of it's not actually that white folks or whiteness and the folks who benefit from it, create it and sustain it and all those things need to care about the folks whose labor and wages they exploit. I think it's very interesting that hold on, let me look at my notes.
Take a note.
Listen, she gave me time to, to really think about. Okay, what does it mean to believe that the redemption of humanity means extending benevolence outside of yourself without reconciling with the necessary dehumanization of those shaped by whiteness first? What does it mean to not reconcile with the fact that you first have to be dehumanized to benefit from the level of dehumanization that whiteness is? That your identity is shaped by the fact that whiteness was created to hoard resources and all of the things that had to trickle down from that. So I think the idea that like it is a solution or a reconciling with that level of dehumanization means extending those benefits and privileges misses the whole first step of you are the first one harmed actually in whiteness, white people and folks who are shaped by whiteness. So yeah, I don't think that that's even an important thing for someone to care about me, because I care about myself, and I know that Black folks for generations and generations and generations in the past, forward and all around, will continue to sustain ourselves, because that's what we have to do, because we've never been able to find care from those who benefit from whiteness. So thinking about what does life look like outside of hoping that there is care that will be received, or hoping that humanization will come to us through someone who is dehumanized necessarily at the base of who they are or who they have shaped to be. Yeah.
So hold on.
Yeah, I'm
So,
here.
it's-
We're
it's-
here.
It's eloquent, but I don't think it has getting traction.
Okay.
Let's leave white people out for a moment.
Okay.
You know, and in yourself, do you owe the world anything?
Do I
Never
owe the
mind
world
white
anything?
people, just people. Do you owe the world anything? Do you believe that you would, well, that's probably not. Do you owe the world anything?
I owe the world my most authentic, honest, and truest self. And I think that means honoring all of the folks who got me here. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you realize, of course, being an over-generous artist, people said, you know, you are so full of shit. You think that that we need you. What you have is that the beauty of you, the world needs, right? So I don't know you, man.
Yeah.
Sorry, excuse me, but I know I've had it leveled at me.
Yeah.
Your beneficence says that you are a narcissistic son of a bitch.
Perfect.
You know? So that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
What do you owe the world? What does the world need from you? You know, what about you? What are you doing that the world is benefiting from it every day? I don't know if I am. But let's not talk about Bill. It's more interesting to talk about you.
And the world doesn't have to be the world, right? The world is pretty big, but the world can be your household,
Exactly.
my household,
Exactly.
my
Exactly.
neighborhood, my
And that's why I
community.
think loving the grandchild is one of the most important things I've heard tonight.
Also, one of the most fun things to do either, right?
Hi, I'm Andrea. I'm freshly 18 years old, and I go to...
Hi, Andrea.
Thank you. And I'm a student with the Fairfax Academy, which your company will be members will be coming to teach us.
Wonderful.
And you're talking about what do we do every day that sort of contributes to the world. And this doesn't really have to do with the arts, but I go to a school called Justice High School. It's in Falls Church. It used to be called Jeb Stewart. It's just changed. And so we were recently in the news and everything. And it's I find it so silly how our school is so segregated. We actually have a 70% Hispanic population. Most of them are in the ESOL program because English is their second language. And I myself am Latina, I'm Peruvian. I was born here, but my entire family's Peruvian. I'm talking Sunday ceviche, seeing my abuelito, like Peruvian. And, I grew up bilingual. I grew up being able to understand and speak Spanish and the culture of my family, and also, the American culture. And I really am in touch with my Peruvian roots. I'm in touch with the rural village my grandmother came from, which is it's my favorite place to visit. There's no TVs, no phones. I mean, there's your chickens and then this dirty river that it's probably not safe to really swim in, but we all do it anyway. And so I find it so interesting how my school is technically diverse, but it's so segregated. And it's annoying that we have different levels of education. There's, your regular or standard classes, your AP classes, honors classes, IB classes. I'm grateful that I am allowed to take the IB classes, and that school for me, I'm an academic, I really love school. But I'm one of the few students of color within that program. I'm in my IB English class, we're reading Langston Hughes' poems, and I'm one of the only people of color in my class that can really talk about it, and it sucks because his work is so beautiful, and I'm grateful I can share what I've been through and what I have been able to experience, but there's so many kids who can't just because of a stupid language barrier. And so what I do every day that I try to contribute is just saying, hola, ¿cómo estás? Being in the bathroom, being like, ¿estás bien? ¿Cómo está tu mami, tu papi?
So you're living diversity.
Yes, and it's important. And, for me, I love language learning. I speak French as well because I've studied it for years. We had a French foreign exchange student, didn't know a word of English, and I was like, bonjour, je m'appelle Andrea, comment ça va, stuff like that. I lived in Russia for a little bit, and I was like the only black girl in Russia, let me tell you that. Was it scary? Hell yes. But what was I doing? I was going, здравствуйте, привет, как дела? You know what I mean? I was like, yes, I'm here. Thank you. Thank you. You know what I mean? If you're going to a different country, learn a little bit. It makes a difference. My babushka, shout out to Tanya, she's out in Moscow right now. She'd take me to the market, I just tried my best. I probably sounded like an idiot the first couple days, saying, I want this, I want that. But it's a matter of putting even the smallest foot forward. And in my school, I try to do that every day by just smiling at them, saying hi, showing them, yes, I'm the Latino girl who can speak fluent English, and yes, I'm in a class that's predominantly with white people, but doesn't mean I'm any less connected to my background that we share. And so small things like that, as a student, that I'm going to continue doing even as I go into a secondary education, which I'm so grateful for that I'll be able to do. As a first-generation student for college, that's something I hope to do every day. And that's how I feel like I contribute to the world.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
To answer the question of why should we care about other people or making the world a better place, I think when you make the world a better place, it improves lives, right? I think that's my definition of it, like improving lives across the world. And so if you were to improve a life enough that it gets an education or is able to give off into the world, then you benefit from that yourself. So a way to explain it to a very an ignorant person who doesn't see their own privilege and doesn't think they owe the world anything. As a white person, I believe that I owe the world all the privilege that I have. So I think that to explain it to a person like that, you have to put it you benefit from other people's benefiting. As the world innovates because more people get educated, then you also benefit from those innovations. Let's say in the medical field or something, the more people that have the money to contribute to research in the medical field, the better it gets. So then eventually maybe you'll be saved from that research. It's just
And that's a great example because as we say to those idiots who do not believe in science, we say that diseases don't recognize boundaries, race, what have you. If there is a bug out there, we will all get it. Therefore, it behooves us to all be interested in science and curing it. That's something I respect, hearing that kind of reasoning.
So like I said, we're all on this planet together, period. Jay mentioned that. We're all connected, and not only are we connected to those that are living besides us, around us, across the street from us, 6,000 miles from us, we're all connected through life, but also spiritually through the journey that we're all a part of in this way. And what unites us is the planet, Earth. My sister's not in Mars calling me up. Like, we're not, like, we're all on this ground, dirt, bacteria. We all share it.
Therefore,
wait, let me add one more thing. Also, let me add one more thing. So, we all related through the earth, right? We're also faced with these world events that happen to us that we have to react to, the diseases they plant onto us to benefit the economy, all this stuff, we're all going through it together. And so, no, I do not have a grandchild just yet. I don't have somebody that's depending on me just yet. So I can't relate to that right now. You know what I'm saying? But it isn't the future, but it's the past. That is the reason why we should be motivated to reach freedom for ourselves and for each other. Okay, I'm done.
What? Tell me your name again. Carmela.
Are you from Brooklyn?
Yeah, I'm from Brooklyn.
Yes, right. There's a gentleman back there. I think he was heading toward the microphone, or you just take it.
And dear sir, you are going to offer us the final response.
Oh, are we there already?
So Troy is my name, by the way.
Troy,
Troy.
hi Troy.
And we all agree. We seem like we all agree that your answer to your question should have been the positive. And I would submit to you, maybe it's the negative. Maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you shouldn't care. Maybe it doesn't even matter if you do or don't. Because as I listened to all the great things, it was kind of neat to your point about a good feeling. But and if you want background, to me it doesn't matter what my background. But if you wanted it, I was a soldier for 25 years. I've been shot at for 18,000 times. I've gone to countries for things I don't even know why. So that's not really, to me, what I think about. When I think about what your question was, why should you care, right? That was your no-kidding question. And I would submit to you, you don't have to. Not only do you not have to, it's okay if you don't.
No, I don't think it's okay if you
Wait, let me finish why I think
sorry,
it's okay. It's okay if you don't. It's okay if you don't, as long as you're willing to accept the consequences that come along with it. See, that's what I don't think we talk about. We talk about to your point, flippantly, about it's okay if I'm in my house or whatever. But there are real, live, no kidding consequences societally, which you've all named, by the way, when you choose not to. So I can't always answer the question about why you should, but over being shot at a couple of years, watching people die for no reason, I can definitely articulate what happens if you don't. So I would only submit to you that in the affirmative, as you ask the question, maybe the answer is in the negative. Maybe the answer is in what happens to a society, when you don't. And then we can go back to all the history that we try to not repeat because of understanding the opposite. That's all.
That's
Wow.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So I want to bring us to a close and thank you for your presence, your energy, your willingness to nudge all of us, right? It was beautiful. Thank you for that gift.
Can I?
Yes.
I have some buttons.
He has gifts, physical gifts.
Charlottesville voted to remove the statue of Robert E. Lee, and we're not allowed to do it because of a judge's ruling and also because of a state law. And the General Assembly is considering right now whether to change the law. By the way, I should have said, I'm taking off my UVA professor hat and putting on my community member hat. So, and also, if people are interested in what we did at the University of Virginia to call our university, which I'm part of, to call us into account for our legacy of slavery, segregation, discrimination, eugenics. I've got these reports over there too. I'll put them up in the front, everything. Buttons, I don't want to take any buttons home, and reports too.
And thank you. Thank you for your focus, your energy in terms of really changing Charlottesville and communities.
It's an honor, and I know it, so am I being too saccharine if I'm saying, who knew what would come out of this?
No.
And you
Yeah,
probably did.
Absolutely. And thank all of you, right? I mean, maybe you felt a little bit uncomfortable. Maybe you have a whole new slate of questions. And I appreciate your willingness to sit in this space, to hold this space as a community this evening. And I hope you see our dialogue, right, as a gift. And so I send you off with that in great appreciation. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you so much.